it's okay. I can try make it. Which one? Oh, Nikala. Chandu and company. So just to provide a contrast to what a little bit of e-commerce bashing that has happened in the morning, so I thought I'll just put up a slide to provide a different perspective. So we had fund managers, because they hit valuations going out of whack. So they would have to say their piece, how this is unrealistic, how this is so bad, how it's going to come crashing. But this whole panel is about looking at it from the entrepreneur's perspective, right? So 3 years back, if somebody had told me that, a Flipkart and Snapdeal in 1 year would raise $3 billion, and, we would have the Chinese looking at us with envy, and if we had said that, we would build companies here which have access to almost infinite capital, I said, what have we been smoking, right? So today, this is happening, in your own backyard. So people are building ventures, in their dreams, getting dollops of capital. In fact, I met one entrepreneur who actually told me that the investor from the US had reached out to him on LinkedIn and said, we like what you are doing, so can we write you a check, right? And the first board meeting is when he met the investor itself, right? So you can call them bad hedge funds from Hong Kong, New York, whatever, but this entrepreneur has gone on to raise 3 rounds of capital from this very same hedge fund. And he said, it's not that I don't have any other investor to go to, but I really couldn't find an equivalent, somebody here who understood, this space. So I would love to ask of this panel, what's so bad about taking money from a hedge fund, right? So there was a little bit of hedge fund bashing in the panel. So I'm saying, what's bad from an entrepreneur's perspective? So we're going to twist the whole, we've heard a lot of fund managers' perspective. We're going to see, substantially from the entrepreneur's perspective in this panel. So one good thing, so we've always talked, and people said Indian companies, MNCs do not acquire Indian companies. We had that, inbound happens, outbound happen, domestic does not happen. But today we had, a lot of family offices talk about it. So today, because of e-commerce, Mr. Ratan Tata is a very active angel investor, right? So, and it did not happen before. And a lot of people said about, there was a talk about, we don't invest, we invest in only our kids' ventures and not in other kids' ventures, so that's what's going to make angel activity happen. So, because again, if you look at one of the most active investors here, the founders of Flipkart and founders of Snapdeal are among the most active investors here. So we talked about, domestic deals not happening. Flipkart and Snapdeal have between them acquired a dozen Indian companies already. So end of the day, so these guys seem to be solving all the problems that, the fund managers talked about. So they're creating exits, they're creating deal flow for fund managers. So, what's the e-commerce bashing all about, right? Just to provide a different perspective and entrepreneur's perspective. Let's get started with our panel. So I'd like to welcome on stage Chandu Nair. Chandu is an entrepreneur turned investor. So he created one of the pioneering KPOs in this country. This profile is in your booklet. So, and then he sold off to somebody who's very, very well known, kind of considered the father of the Indian BPO industry, Quattro. Raman Roy is the founder. And he is now wearing a different hat in terms of being a part of the Chennai Angels and having invested in a couple of companies, very successfully gotten them the next round as well. So he's going to provide us that perspective. We're going to be joined on the panel by somebody who has actually exited a company just having raised an angel round of funding. We have Ashwani Gaur of Places. Please join him on stage. We're going to have, one of the, I think Mahesh Murthy was here earlier in the day. He alluded to the Redbus story. So we have somebody who's seen the Redbus story from very close quarters. So we have inventors, Parag Dole, and he was a board member of Redbus. So he's going to wear the investor hat, but he's going to tell us a little bit of the Redbus story. So we have somebody who's raised 3 rounds, in fact, one of the slides that I had shared with the panel is, and somebody talked about it this morning in terms of, if you take out e-commerce, there's nothing happening out here, right? So, and we looked at education, we looked at the data, and agreeably, this is early stage. Nothing else is happening except online services and maybe a little bit of enterprise software. Education no longer the flavor of the day that it used to be. But here is somebody who has raised not just one round, not 2 rounds, but 3 rounds of funding from 3 companies. We have Krishna Kumar, CEO of Simply Learn, who's raised money from marquee investors, and the latest being a $15 million round, from Mayfield and his earlier investors, Helion and, Kalari Capital participating in that round. So, another investor perspective that he's going to provide, not really your e-commerce at all, but, he's really leveraging all the tools that those are bringing to the table. So, we have the panel set. We have NK Dilip, who will provide a legal perspective, because a lot of slips between the cup and lip, as the morning we were all talked about. So, in the entrepreneur's journey, we're going to get that perspective as well, what to watch out for when dealing with investors as you grow the company, and also when it comes to the all-important exit. So, Dilip will provide the legal aspect to all of this. Thank you very much, Chandu. It's all yours.
Thank you, Arun, for setting the stage. And this is the last session, and as is evident from many an empty chair, we can understand why there are empty chairs this evening. But hopefully, before we talk about, we come to the end of this panel, which talks about the entrepreneur's life cycle from start to funding to scaling to growing, which I would call fund, grow, and go in some sense. We hope that there won't be any more exits from this room. So what I will do is broadly follow a quick format, ask each of these gentlemen, I'll ask Parag because he's the investor with the mostest experience, to give us a quick sense of the context of funding and what happens across an entrepreneur's life cycle, and using the Redbus story really as a placeholder. Then I will ask Krishna Kumar, who's a more experienced entrepreneur, who's had 2 sets of ventures, one which was funded, one which was not, and the basis for his decision making, why he did what he did. And thirdly, then I'll move to the younger entrepreneur who actually went through a very different route. He went through an accelerator program, got angel funded, and within a few months of getting angel funded, did a strategic trade sale. So again, what is really happening with a younger entrepreneur's mind and the perspective. And finally, and then I will talk a little bit again, based on my experience personally as an entrepreneur, having raised money myself and sold to a strategic investor, and now wearing my hat as an angel investor, what I've seen over the last few years. And finally, we'll ask Dilip, the lawyer, to pour cold water over all this and tell us what really happens while we are trying to make all this work. So first, let me ask Parag to come up and set the stage for us, please. Parag.
Okay. So let me start off with the Redbus story. Most of you know the background, but I'll kind of put it in three parts. So here was the first part is it's almost like a textbook case study. 3 people, young guys coming out of BITS Pilani. Okay, 2-3 years. So it's like a textbook case study, so to speak. 3 guys coming out of BITS Pilani, 2 years into their jobs, 3 years into their jobs at most, 25 years old, starting a company based on an insight, taking it all the way to an exit. Creating a real company, forget about the exit, I think creating a real business out of it. I think that to me is the key point. The second thing about Redbus was the power of the internet in creating what are known as marketplace, 2-sided network kind of models. So it's like, as somebody beautifully described, millions of customers on one side, many bus operators, 1,000 plus large bus operators on the other side, medium and large bus operators on the other side, and an honest broker in between. This was only possible because of technology sitting in between, and I think Redbus is a key example of that. And the third thing I wanted to point out in Redbus was it's slightly anachronistic in the times that we are living in, when every day there's an announcement for $100 million funding to somebody. But here was one company that did it with very little money. It was capital efficient, with every letter of that capital efficient being capitalized, so to speak. It raised a total of $9 million in change, and 2/3 of it was sitting in the bank account when it was And this was not a mean business. This was selling tickets worth so many crores that I don't even know how many zeros are there. So those were the three key things that I wanted to cover as far as the Redbus story went. I was also asked to kind of provide an overview of what I think is happening in the ecosystem at this point in time, the funding part, so to speak. And I think a lot of people have spoken before me. I didn't hear them, so some of those things might even contradict what has been said in the morning, but I'll take that risk. I think what is kind of happening, if I look at the key trends, in spite of what Arun said, it is B2C typically, which is getting a major portion of the money. It is concentrated, not all companies are getting it, but the big funding is going to the ones that have scaled, and it is largely the B2C that is getting the funding. The B2B companies, leave aside a few like Freshdesk, etc., are kind of the plain Janes being left aside. Even education, Simplilearn is probably the exception, but education also we have seen challenges in some of our portfolio companies. So it's a case where it's become so easy for some of these e-commerce, internet-led models to raise 10, 20, $30 million, going up to 100 and 500 in some cases. But it is the other set of guys, which is 95, 96, 99% of the market, is still finding it as hard as ever to raise money. I don't think it has gotten harder. It's just the contrast is so high that I think it is causing a lot of heartburn in some of these entrepreneurs. I think that is one thing I would want to point out. The second thing I would want to point out is, and I'm a great believer in sticking to what you know, etc., etc. And probably some of the other panelists covered it in the past, in the past sessions, I should say. But what is happening is a lot of these hedge funds are coming down and doing maybe even Series A at times. And the people like us are going down to the seed stage. Series B is coming to Series A. People who had written only $5 million checks in companies which are EBITDA positive, etc., etc., are now wanting to do companies which have hardly any revenues. So I think some of this is going to lead to a lot of pain. See, Tiger, etc., are extraordinary examples. They have been in India. He's been in India for 10 years. If there is somebody from outside of India's shores who understands this country, it is him. So leave him aside. He is Six Sigma. But the others, I at times wonder what will happen. But the positive side, and Arun alluded to that, is the fact that Chinese investors are coming. About 3 years back, 2.5 years back, Japanese people started showing interest in India. And I think now Chinese investors, last 6 months, we have seen a few people coming. Even at an angel level, we have noticed that some people are coming in. That is a distinct positive. This distinct change and money coming in is always good for entrepreneurs. I'll stop there, Chandra.
Hello? Yeah, I'm fine speaking here. So I'll share my experience of running Tech Unified as well as Simplilearn from raising funding perspective and some of my thoughts on when an entrepreneur should raise fund and how do I see the scenario. So Tech Unified I started pretty much out of college. It was 4 of us who were like batchmates and we started pretty much 6 months out of college and we ran it for 7 years. There was no external investment that we had raised. And from 0 to 49 crore. So we sold it in 49 crore, 4 partners, all of us made 12 crore and we were very happy. This happened when all 4 of us were about 28 or 29 years old and none of us were married, so it was a good money. Now when we moved out of Tech Unified and when you make some money, everybody starts agreeing to disagree, right? So all 4 of us went our own different ways. And while I started my next venture, which was Simplilearn, that happened by chance, within a year itself, the business was again profitable. I was doing about 50 to 60 lakhs in monthly business, and it was about 15, 20 lakhs of monthly cash flow that was coming up. So that's where when I started thinking that, am I going to go the same Tech Unified way, again becomes maybe a 15, 20 crore business, and I make a couple of crores every year, or should I look at scaling that business? So moment that thought came in my mind that I'm looking at scaling the business. So again, the immediate next thought was that you can scale a business only when you have guys better than you work for you. Now, that is a difficult task. I think if somebody asks me today, I have about 600 people, full-time people in Simplilearn, and hiring good guys versus raising money, which is more difficult? My answer will be hiring good guys is more difficult than raising money today. So first thing that when this thought came into my mind, then I started thinking that one of the way to attract good people is that you get some good investors on board, because one, it gets a lot of media attention. Second, it builds a lot of credibility into your business. So moment there is a good VC investor on board, and when you go and talk to a couple of senior guys that, hey, are you looking to be a CXO of so-and-so company? Are you interested to head my sales function? Are you interested to head my product or a marketing function? Your ability to attract good guys becomes very high. So that was my motivation why I raised my first round with Kalari for Simplilearn. In fact, business was profitable. There was no pressure on me at all, and it was a good position to be in. And 100% of that company was owned by me. So the moment I raised Series A, I also realized that VC investment also comes with a lot of terms and conditions. So my first difficulty of dealing was that once you raise VC capital and start going through the terms and conditions, that's where you realize that it's not as rosy as it looks. There are a lot of compromises that you need to make. There are a lot of agreements that you sign which are like pretty much against you. So if you are an entrepreneur who are doing good and you are happy with, and you want to do the business for your peace of mind and you are enjoying what you are doing, if you don't need money, my suggestion is don't raise VC fund. Okay? So when I raised, and another problem that happens with raising VC fund is that once you start raising money, then what you do, you raise, and raise. So that again becomes a unnecessary kind of loop that you are always in. So after raising Series A, my business scaled 5 times in a year. Now, again, business was profitable, so there was no reason to raise money. But since you have raised money once, you again raise it because you want to do an acquisition, you want to do more products, you want to try 10 different things, and that became the reason why we went for a second round of funding. Again, we are in the same rut that we started investing more money, started hiring more people, started doing more products, looking at now we got to a stage wherein we started thinking that why don't we do inorganic? Let's buy out companies. Because when you buy out companies, then you become big at a much faster speed than what you normally do. So we raised again money. So it's like you need to be prepared for that mindset, because the moment you get an investor on board, you are not the only one who is making decision. There are investors, they come up with their own perspective, they also have their own exit time frame. One way of showing an exit to investor is that you sell your business like what Redbus did, or another way of showing exit is that you get another guy who's going to pay you more premium than the previous guy. So it's like a cycle. So you need to be prepared to do that. Now, my in general advice to any entrepreneur is that if you're starting a business, and you're starting a business with a thought that one day a VC will come and invest into it, then maybe you are wrong. You should always start a business because you believe in that business, and you start with the thought that you're going to run that business for the rest of your life. So you should be enjoying what you are doing. And then only a VC guy will also invest, because that's a very opportunist community, I will tell. They will invest only when they think that there is an opportunity to make money. And it is right also, because they're not investing their personal money, right? They're investing someone else's money. So the only rule that is being followed in VC industry is that if there is an opportunity to make money, a VC will invest. A VC is not going to invest because they want to change the social economic condition, or a VC is not investing in e-commerce because they think that they want to make Indians become better in buying things, or they want to make life of a lot of Indian people simple. The very fact that people are investing money because they see a potential of making maybe 10 times return in that industry. Another thing that I observed in VC industry is that the risk appetite, what it appears so high, is not really that so high. That is the reason why you see more and more investors getting into a Flipkart or a Snapdeal, because people are thinking that that's relatively a safe investment, because companies already get to a stage wherein they will not fail. Maybe they might not grow at that speed, but they will not fail. That is the reason why Simplilearn, we never, so after our first round, we never had to get into the market to raise money. Every time that we raised money, it was more like incoming interest, that we are very interested in education, and this is my global philosophy, that we think that this space is going to grow. Are you ready to take money? So we said, okay, if you are giving money, should not say no, right? So we raised money. So that's my perspective. And I'm enjoying what I'm doing in Simplilearn. I think as long as I enjoy, I'll go with the flow. So that is the current philosophy. There's not much of thought that has gone behind. If there is a money, your ability to sustain in the business, your ability to kill competition, your ability to hire the best guy, your ability to fail, everything increases. So that's my perspective.
So I'll talk about experience as an early stage investor, entrepreneur. So 3 years back when we started, the early stage scenario was not, that encouraging that is as of now. Especially when you look at when you are doing your first startup and friends and family round is difficult. One of the question was why we took, accelerator route. So when you are starting your first venture, you don't have a lot of option to raise, friends and family round, and especially when you're young, just out of college. So I think accelerator helps a lot to such an initial stage when you are just going on with just an idea to these guys. So I think accelerator was a good experience. Also, on the flip side, if you directly go to an angel investor, what my experience was in India, especially, angel investor comes with their own agenda, and that especially at an early stage when you are just shaping up your ideas, you are looking at the right pivot. It's not a great idea to having somebody sitting on your head. So early, just like what Krishna shared. Because even after Series A, when your VCs, when there is a VC, until that stage, at least the business model is validated, your business is up and running, so you can have all those headache on your head. But when you are just starting your idea, it's very difficult when somebody is telling you do this, do that. So on those perspective, accelerators are a pretty good option. They are generally very professional. They don't put a lot of headache in your, the way you function. They give a lot of flexibility to entrepreneurs. Also, they give very decent exposure to the entrepreneurs to, to get meet the guy who can give you the next round. So from those perspective, I think accelerator is a good idea. However, in India, accelerator are not at a level of, we don't have anything which is 10 times 1/10 of what Y Combinator is. But I think as ecosystem is evolving, I think we will have a pretty good accelerator coming out of India in next couple of years. And I think it's a pretty good route if you are doing your first startup, definitely. Coming to the exit, our exit was mostly kind of a bit early exit because we were bought because of our technology. Some big company wanted to buy our technology to build something in a bit different domain, in B2B domain. In our case, I think the acquisition could be planned in a much better way, because when you go for an acquisition which is in all stock, you are buying to somebody else's vision. And if that doesn't happen, the exit is not successful. So my suggestion to be people who are who are getting a all stock deals kind of an acquisition, you should be very careful about that, because if you are riding a bigger ship, you are buying into their vision, and if people change their mind in between, it backfires. So that is about the acquisition, but that's it.
Okay, thanks. I think Parag and Krishna Kumar and Ashwini have given us a pretty good idea of what exactly is happening from both a funder's perspective and a more established and an early stage entrepreneur. I relatively am a little more of a dinosaur compared to these young Turks out here, because I started as an entrepreneur way back in 1987 when that word entrepreneur was not fashionable. Today I sit as an angel. Angel is a 5-letter word, but I was informed so is devil. So, you get a little different perspective when you put those things in mind, that there's only a very fine line between a fellow with wings and a fellow with horns. And we heard some expression of that from Ashwini itself. Now, what I will just tell you is that I've gone through this informal angel round, because there are no angels way back in 95 or 98, but I did have an angel round, if you could call it that. And one of the things I learned after we gave the angels an exit and the VCs came in, within 3 odd years, we gave them 6 times the capital. is that when you make money for yourself, nobody really bothers. But when you make money for others, many people come to you. So the first lesson to raising money I discovered is you show visible signs of making money for somebody else. Very strangely, people will come to you. It's a very interesting paradox, you know. That's why I think Tirupati Balaji still has the maximum number of visitors, and he still is collecting dowry after so many years and years. The other thing which I've observed now in the last several years now, 6 years ago when we did in TIE Chennai a workshop on mentoring for entrepreneurs and potential mentors, there were 6 people in the audience, just 6, you know. Today, any standard mentoring clinic that we do, any standard workshop, I'll be surprised if we have less than 100. The short point I'm making is in the last 5 years, particularly in the last 4 years, 3 years, the entrepreneur ecosystem is showing signs of emerging in India. You have a creature called an incubator, you have somebody called an accelerator, you have somebody providing, like, you know, one of my companies has got 25 lakhs from the Department of Science and Technology as a grant come equity, you know, with virtually free money. You're getting grants, you're getting seed funds, and all kinds of more, you know, amorphous creatures emerging. So today if we ask what an Inventors is, we don't know whether it's a seed fund or a venture capital fund or a private equity, because everything is kind of getting merged. But there is a semblance of an ecosystem emerging. Why is this important? Because many years back, we didn't have anybody who could guide us. But today, somebody like an Ashwini, somebody else, actually has the benefit of an ecosystem, at least in the top 6 to 8 cities, where there's a lot of things waiting for a good entrepreneur. And I think that is vital, because without, one of the challenges that all of us will talk about is a quality deal flow. And even a lot of venture capital companies will tell you for every 150 business plans they see, they're lucky if they get one. Even in Chennai Angels or other angel networks, if you see 400, 500, you're lucky if you do 6 or 7 of them as actual deals. So one of the challenges that we have is a quality deal flow, and that I think will improve only if the ecosystem by and large improves. And I think all these are essential steps. The third thing which was alluded to in the morning is that mind is finally prevailing right now over money. As Krishna Kumar said, it is difficult to get fundas. It's more easy to get funds. So you get people is more of a challenge than to get paisa. So that, I think, is becoming more of a challenge in a country of 1.2, 1.6 billion, whatever number you want to take. The paucity of employable talent is still a big headache. And therefore, quality entrepreneurs are also at a premium. And that's something I think that is becoming more and more of a challenge right now. The other thing which I've also seen, having gone to colleges, especially over the last few years, is there is a distinct wave of entrepreneurial enthusiasm. Even, among the premier institutes, many of the people in a graduating batch today consciously want to become entrepreneurs and opt out of placement, A. B, many of these institutions are also encouraging it by allowing them to come back to placement after 2 years if they don't make it. So there is some conscious attempts. See, in a place like Kerala, there's also credits given for those in colleges if they are involved in an entrepreneurial activity. So you're seeing a conscious wave of entrepreneurial enthusiasm because of a multiplicity of reasons. The reason behind this, I think, is the growing acceptability of failing, finally, in India. That if you fail at something, you are not a failure, is, I think, a clear distinction that is being made nowadays, as opposed to, say, when I started off many years ago, that distinction between you failing and you being a failure has finally, I think, and clearly happened. But on the flip side, as Parag mentioned about these stratospheric valuations and numbers which we can't count in terms of zeros, that people are today, I believe, building for valuation, not building for value. So if you're not building a business, I think, I'm a little old school that way. You know, I like cash flow. I like to see money coming. I like to see, a real profit figure, not an opinionated profit figure. So if I look at it from that perspective, I'm not so happy about this valuation-based businesses rather than value-based businesses, That, I think, is on the flip side of it. And the other thing which is interesting is years ago when I tried to raise money as a .com company, which I sold actually, at that time I was told I was too old. because, you know, I was in my 30s that time. Fellow said, you are very old. Because they wanted to give it to young guys. Today, I think there's a greater acceptance of different kinds of people, though I would say the median still is somewhere between 32, 33 to about 45. Parag can correct me, but I've seen that most funding happens to people within this age bracket. And you can check it out. It's a general rule of thumb that the median will be typically in this range, because in 32, 33, you've got 8 to 12 years experience in somebody else's money. So you are not going to make mistakes on my own money, you know, which I'm going to invest.